wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together.
The name is Noreen Daly. It is Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. Now, our topic this time around is how can you determine the appropriate levels of self-disclosure in relationships? Now, I have Jessica, who will introduce herself. And we have Ralna Simmonds, who will also introduce herself.
I'm Jessica Timoll, a fourth-year student at the Northern Caribbean University. There's not much more I want to say about myself.
Again. All right, so I'm Ralna Simmonds, instructor in the Department of Communication Studies, friend of Noreen Daly. And she's also my boss. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, ladies, how before we even get into the topic itself, let's just set a context for our listeners. Now, when we speak of self-disclosure, what are we talking about? What is meant by that term?
All right, self-disclosure at its base is you opening up yourself to another person. So self, you, disclosure, sharing information as you see fit.
Okay. Okay. Anything you want to add, Jessica?
It's mostly about sharing personal stuff because people see you on a day-to-day basis and they know stuff about you because they see you. But I think self-disclosure has to do with sharing personal stuff that a regular person wouldn't have known unless you said something.
Okay. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Now let's talk a little bit about the different types of relationship then before we then make the connection of both, because there is a difference in terms of what will be shared in whether in an intimate relationship, and a lot of time people think intimate relationship is only male female, but intimacy denotes a certain level of closeness.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So tell the different types of relationship that then how we determine the levels can then impact on how those relationships, last.
All right, so you begin with acquaintances or
Okay.
associates.
Okay.
This is the standard. You start here, or you're supposed to start here, and it's basic information at this level. These persons do not know more about you than the average person knows about you,
Okay.
or maybe they know just a little bit more. So their reign or their rule is in the public domain. They don't have any advantage, pretty much. We move from acquaintances to friendships. Then you can become friends with acquaintances, but an acquaintance is not synonymous with a friend.
Okay.
This person is a little closer to you. This person knows more about you. Possibly you have shared some experiences. You may have a few things in common. This person ought to know even a little bit about what you like, what you don't like. You've let this person, to a certain extent, into your space. This person has the ability to hurt you. The level at which you can be hurt is debatable, but this
Okay.
person has the ability to hurt you. So friendships now can move on to intimate relationships. And as you said earlier, intimacy here only speaks to the level of closeness. It is expected that you're not only intimate with a significant other. You ought to be intimate with family.
Yes.
You ought to have best friends. It's okay to have best friends. It's okay to have more than one also. For in my own experience, I have several best friends, and they're best friends based on circumstances. I am just one individual, but I am multidimensional.
That's right.
So some of my friends are not able to cross a certain barrier to meet a particular need I have in this sphere of my existence. So I'll need a best friend for each of my spheres. And it's okay if I find out that this person depends on me for a specific thing,
Yes.
but depends on somebody else for another
something
thing.
else.
Because you can be the most important person to someone in the world, but you can't be the world to anybody.
somebody.
That's too much work.
Yeah.
That's too much work. So it's basically those three, and these three types of friendships happen across all spheres. They can happen at school, they can
Yes.
happen at work, they can happen at church. Yeah.
Nothing to add, Jessica? Okay. So now that we've set a context, how then can we determine the appropriate levels of self-disclosure in relationships?
Well, for the appropriate levels of self-disclosure, I think it all depends on the level at which you're at in that person's life.
Okay.
I think we also need to be able to differentiate between professional relationships and, being able to say, well, this person does not need to know this about me. This person does not need to know about what I do when I get home because this is a professional relationship.
Right.
I think intimate relationships, those are the relationships where you would have persons knowing the most about you. That person will still probably not know everything about you, but they will know the most about you. I think those tend to be the most important relationships in your life. And those persons you open up yourself to. And as Miss Simmonds said before, you're, opening up yourself to possibly being hurt by that person because that person indeed knows you, who you are, what you like, what you don't like, and so forth. I think it also has to do with mutual disclosure as well. So I know sometimes you tend to have a friend who you feel as though I'm opening up to this person, but this person never tells me anything.
Right,
Something must be
right.
wrong.
Yes.
So you also have to, it's about mutual give and take. So if I'm telling you stuff about myself, I expect to know stuff about you as well. So you need to know your barriers to set with persons.
Okay. I noticed you said, though, professional, make that distinction between professional and personal relationships. Bearing in mind that the workplace is where most people spend the bulk of their time. So more often than not, a lot of persons who you work with end up being your friends.
True.
So how then do you treat that?
By still remembering that it's work that you've gone. And when you're finished, you ought to be able to close your office or you return your chair to your desk and you step out. When you get off of company property, is you
Okay.
and whomever else you've invited to come into that space with you. I want to piggyback on something Jessica mentioned. The concept of self-disclosure must be approached from a gradual standpoint. So as she said, we have to give and take. Yes, you have to be mindful of that. So I don't expect to meet you right now and find out deepest, darkest things about you. Even though there are some persons who do that. I've been on public transport before and a total stranger is sitting beside me offloading. And I think it is okay to do that for persons who do that if the likelihood is not there for you to ever see the person again. You don't have any information that you can use against the person. He or she is feeling heavy, for lack of a better word. You seem to have a caring enough face. You look like somebody I could trust. If you're a Christian, it comes out. The Holy Spirit has got a way of telling people who to come to you with their stuff.
That is true.
So even we're sharing the guidelines, but we know of instances where people don't know you. And they just come and they just let it go.
Yes.
But as far as sustaining a relationship is concerned, you want to be gradual about it. You also want to be careful. You want to be clear to talk about what you expect out of the relationship.
Yes.
So don't just allow things to happen and then when something goes wrong, you're like, but you should have known that was not
Yes,
right.
yes.
Or this is one that we like to do. You had no right to feel that way. You knew I was joking. We don't have the right to tell people how to feel.
Yeah.
Especially if we have not communicated enough. And I mean, I'm thinking it's much easier to say to the person, the truth is I didn't mean for you to have taken it that way.
Way.
So by virtue of it having hurt your feelings, then I am indeed sorry. That was not the intent. But don't tell me, but you shouldn't feel so. You know, say a joke may I make. Why you feel that way? You may very well be making a joke, but where am I right now in your joke making? Do you know what day I have had? Do you know what struggles I've been fighting? You know, that sort of thing.
Jessica?
Well, I mean, Miss Simmonds was talking about a person who comes and unloads themselves. Some people don't have anybody to talk to. And I mean, in today's society, we have persons going through a lot. So some persons, especially on public transport, this seems to happen a lot on Jamaican public transport. A woman can't seem to take a certain problem anymore and she just offloads herself. And we're sitting there as persons who know better. We should give a listening ear, and if we can give, constructive advice and, listen to what that person has to say, then we should give our input, make the person feel as though they're being listened to.
Yeah.
It's important for a lot of persons. We can save persons from a lot if we just give a listening ear.
True. And one of the things that we want to bear in mind too, we stand to benefit from disclosure. Why do I say that? You know yourself better through the eyes of other people. I ask my students this all the time. I say, when you're busy enjoying a belly laugh, do you know how you look? Have you ever stopped to get a mirror? You're enjoying a joke, but you're looking at yourself to see how you look when you're enjoying the joke?
No, you
say,
never do
no,
that.
miss, who does
No.
that? I say, exactly. But somebody else looking on will take the time to take a photograph of you.
True.
And this now moves out of the realm of the unknown. You didn't know this about yourself, but you know it now. And it takes me into what is called the Johari window. The Johari window is a literal window with 4 panes. And each pane represents a different aspect of yourself. So the open pane, for example, talks about information that is general. Your name,
Yes.
your height, your complexion, that kind of stuff. Things that are obvious. They talks about the hidden pane. So this has what we could call secrets. You know this information about yourself. It's not known to other people. All right? From there, we look at the blind pane. People know it about you, but you don't know it about yourself.
Right.
And the final pane is the unknown. You don't know, nobody knows. But what all of this stands for is each time you share a bit of information, it impacts one of these 4 panes. That's what it does. So if you divulge a secret with a particular person, what it does to that relationship is it minimizes the hidden pain and it widens the open pain because you're adding information to that.
Yes.
If you withhold information from the person, you are narrowing the open pain and making the hidden pain wider. The implication on the sustenance of the relationship then says you have control over how much you tell, and then to another extent, you determine what happens in that relationship. There are relationships that last for years with people and they don't grow because you don't know nothing about me and I don't know anything about you. And then there are other relationships now, you just met the person, but you feel like you've known them forever and you spend the entire night on the phone, and by tomorrow, this person is your new best friend. So there is no time limit necessary.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that there is a time limit, but I would say exercise caution. Because if things happen too quickly, they can end quickly also.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was actually about to ask that, because you mentioned that how sometimes people can just sit and offload.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned that how it's a gradual process, and usually people go from acquaintances to friendship,
to
to
intimates.
friends to intimates.
Right.
Now, do you think it is then possible, if it is that I meet somebody, we become acquaintances, because you yourself said that there's no time. Do you think you can almost skip and go straight because of how comfortable you can feel this closing, that you can even quote unquote jump straight to thinking that, I feel so connected to this person. So it's an intimate relationship?
Not quite.
Okay.
While time is not the deciding factor. Time allows you to prove if this person is sincere.
Okay.
Time allows you to prove if this person is here for the long haul or he or
Okay.
she's just trying to pull a fast one.
Okay.
So in that case, time is still important. I could use it to look at marriages, for example. Some persons prefer the more traditional route of courtships that last into years.
Okay.
There are other persons who meet and within a matter of months they're married. And the truth is, the statistics do not indicate that those who got married within months were less successful than those who courted for years. What the statistics tell you is that 50% of marriages end in divorce. That's what it tells you.
Yes.
So there's no conclusive evidence to say you need to take a long time to get to know somebody. It goes back again to the issue of the maturity of the individual you are befriending or have befriended.
Yes.
There are some people that, yes, you're not necessarily jumping this stage, but you can afford to accelerate because of where the person's headspace is.
Yes.
There are other persons it will take you years, and even then, you still can't move. So you have to know yourself enough, and you have got to have the tools to know that person. And I think having been in lots of relationships that maybe don't necessarily work out the way you planned, those are teaching moments.
Yes.
Instead of getting discouraged that, oh man, I've been in so many relationships, teaching moments. What went well this time?
Yes.
What did I do differently
Yes.
this time? So that you can have your bank, as it were, your bank of reference. What do I need now to do in preparation for the future? Because I plan to be awesome. I won't live on this level all the time. I plan to be awesome. I want to rise to the occasion, but I need to be prepared, because success visited on the unprepared is disaster. And this happens in any context of life. It could be school, it could be professional, it could be work, anything at all.
Yes.
As a female, if you meet the right man at the wrong time, you're going to wreck that.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True.
It applies
True.
to any kind of
True.
relationship.
True.
Yeah.
True. As we are wrapping up, any final words, Jessica? Because we've said a lot. We've touched a bit on. We gave a context in terms of types of relationships, and if people have got nothing else up to this point, we want to let them know that self-disclosure should be mutual and it should be a gradual process. Your final thoughts, Jessica?
Yes, I'm going to piggyback on what Miss Simmonds said. Take caution, but don't limit yourself.
Okay.
Don't say to yourself, oh, I've only known this person for a week, so, I won't. I've oftentimes said this. Sometimes you meet a person and they match your vibe. So you have known a person for years and they never understand you the way somebody understands you after knowing you for a few months. So exercise caution, but don't limit yourself. It's about mutual give and take. Get to know somebody. Getting to know somebody does not take a month. It takes a long period of time. So get to know people, and as Miss Simmonds said earlier on, some relationships won't work out. I think it was a Madea show that I watched that said some persons are like leaves on a tree.
That's it.
They're here for a season and then gone, but they're supposed to teach you a lesson.
Right.
So use your relationships to teach you lessons, and again, exercise caution, but don't limit yourself.
Okay. Ralna?
All right. So my final thoughts: don't kill yourself prematurely. Sometimes when we get into relationships, we sell such a grim picture of ourselves. We make ourselves very unattractive to anybody. And we tell them everything that is wrong with us. And we're literally telling them, stay far from me. We're telling them that with our words, but we have our arms open. Because we need love and we need acceptance. So don't kill yourself prematurely. If you're going to die, you're going to die. Don't prompt it. Tell what you can afford to have disclosed. So if you know that you cannot afford to hear this, be careful who you tell.
Yes.
Be careful who you tell. Be careful of the medium that you tell the person over. Also, some things are better said face to face.
Yeah.
You don't need the footprints, because you can delete a photograph, but I have come to understand that it's not really gone.
Yes.
And that is frightening. So be careful with that. The journey is sometimes better than the destination. Some relationships don't work out for good reason, but what they teach you, oh my gosh, you couldn't pay for it.
Yes.
And if it's an intimate relationship that is supposed to end in marriage and it doesn't end in marriage and you have a friend, then trust me, you have a friend.
Yeah.
You have a friend. Maybe marriage would have destroyed it.
Yes.
But you have a friend, so value the friendship. And finally, assess. Keep growing, keep checking yourself, keep looking at yourself, and just assess. Keep on assessing.
This was a conversation about how can you determine the appropriate levels of self-disclosure in relationships. My name is Noreen Daly, and this was Making It Last podcast. Until next time.
You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.